So you want to play Project K and you have your friends, but you don't really know exactly how to play, how to build a deck and how to start the game. Well, this video is made for you. I am Frobe, I've been to the Macau Open and I had the opportunity to try Project K with the developers. They explained to me all the rules and I got very hyped about the game. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly the basic rules, how to start a game, how to attack, how to defend, and how to play your cards basically so you can play with your friends. Also, I'm going to put all the resources like the official Discord where you can find more rules, more details, and a community that's really hyped about the game. But you can also find in other links all the resources to have access to these rules in a written format, and also the access to the links where you can find all the cards and decks that are for now available because they didn't reveal everything yet, so you can start printing them and play with your friends. On a side note, all the cards I'm showing today are samples I got from the Macau Open, and there's a high chance that these are not the definitive cards, so you can assume that some of the cards will change, especially in the design. Are you ready? Let's start right away. So let's start with the basic rules of Project K. The aim of the game is to score 8 points. And the way to do it, either you play in 1v1 or 2v2 or 1v1, v1, v1, is to score points by taking over battlefields. So when you play one against another person, you have only 2 battlefields. But if you play with 4 players in total, you will have 3 battlefields and you can score points with each of them. You score points when you have a unit that is ready on your bench and you conquer a battlefield. This is an open battlefield, so there's no one on this battlefield. So I can simply put my units and score a point. If there are other units, like this one, then I need to make sure that my combined might, here it's 8, if I have Jinx and this unit, is above the combined might of my opponent holding the battlefield. Here is 5. So if both my units are ready and I decide to attack this, these 2 units go to trash, and I will explain a bit later how the damage distribution goes, but basically I have my Jinx that will die here because they still have 5 might and my Jinx have 5 might. And then I conquer it and I score also 1 point. Now, the other way to score 1 point is to hold one battlefield when you start your turn. It means that, for instance, the previous turn, you conquer this battlefield and no one attacked it. So your unit is still there and alive. So when you start your turn, you draw 1 card, you draw your runes. I will explain a little bit later how to start the turn. And since you conquer one battlefield, you score 1 point. Now let's say you are at 7 points, you're 1 point away from victory. You cannot just win the game by simply conquering one battlefield. This doesn't work because you need to either conquer all the battlefields at the same time on the same turn. So it means that, for instance, I need, give me one more unit. So either I need to have this already conquered and then I attack this one, I win the fight and I conquer it, or the other way is to score 1 point by holding one of the battlefield. So let's say that I finish my turn in this kind of setup, my opponent is not capable of removing my unit from this battlefield, then it's my turn and I score the last point, giving me the victory. One last thing about battlefields, you also have to be careful because some battlefields have effects. I mean, most of them have effects actually. For instance, this one is like when I defend, you may move a friendly unit here to base. So this is just an example of an effect of battlefield. But let's say that I'm defending this battlefield and Victor is attacking my battlefield. And what I can do, since I am the one defending, instead of just letting my unit die, I can move it back to my base. And anyway, this person will, no matter what, conquer this battlefield, score 1 point, but at least I save my unit. Another example is this one, allows units to gank. So gank is an effect that some units have, but when you have it there, it works all the time. It means that, let's say, I am the owner of this battlefield. It is my turn. These units are not exhausted, meaning that they haven't played this turn yet. And I can gank Victor this way, thanks to the effect of this battlefield. And that way, I can kill Victor, score 1 point. There's one more thing I need to say that's really important, is that if I already conquered one battlefield and scored 1 point during my turn on this battlefield, I cannot do something like removing my units and put them back again, thanks to some cards and effects, because there are some spells that allow you to do that, and score 1 more point. If I do that, I don't score another point, I just score 1 point maximum per battlefield I conquer per turn. And let's say like I'm at 7 points and I decide to conquer this battlefield. Like I said earlier, I cannot win the game from that, but since I'm at 7 points, thanks to that, I can draw 1 card when I conquer a battlefield. This is actually interesting in order to have more cards and maybe draw something that allows me to conquer another battlefield and win the game. Okay, so now let's talk about the cards and all the attributes of a card, right? So this is the might of the card. This is the amount of damage this card can deal whenever I attack or defend, but this is also its life. So basically, Jinx has 5 might and 5 life. If someone attacks with 2 might, she'll go to 3 life, but this is only during the turn. I will explain a little bit later. Then you have the cost of the card. This is the number of runes you need to exhaust in order to play her, and this is the amount of runes and also the type of rune you need to recycle if you want to play her. So I'll give you an example of how I can play Jinx. She has 5 of costs and she has 1 rune to recycle. So let's say that I have here 6 runes, right? What I can do if I want to play her is to take 5 of them. It doesn't matter the color, right? It's 5 of them. And you exhaust it. So it means that when you put your units on that side, it means that they are exhausted and you cannot play these runes again during this turn. Then what I also need to do is to take 1 chaotic rune, the purple one, and recycle it. It means that I put it at the bottom of my rune deck like this, and then finally I can play her. But when I play her and whenever I play unit, remember that they are exhausted. It means that I cannot simply play her and attack the same turn, except some cards who have these effects. There's one thing I can do though, which is specifically in the case where I already hold 1 battlefield, is that I can play her directly into the battlefield I defend in order to reinforce my battlefield, making it harder to attack it. And now let's talk about legends, because champions are considered like units. They are the same thing, but legends are different. This is Jinx, this is Volibear, for instance. So legends are not units you can play. They usually just show what kind of runes you need to play to build these cards. So I have Chaotic and Fury, if I'm correct. And then after, for this one, I have Fury, and I honestly forgot the name of the orange rune, but it doesn't really matter. So these have effects. For instance, for Jinx, at the start of your beginning phase, basically when I start my turn, draw 1 more card if you have only 1 card or fewer cards in my hand. So basically the idea of Jinx is to consume all of my cards as fast as possible so I can draw 2 cards per turn instead of 1. For Volibear, it's a little bit different. When you play a unit with 5 might or more, you may exhaust me to play your top rune exhausted. So this is a little bit complicated, so I'm going to show you an example. For Volibear, for instance, if I play Jinx, you cannot play both in the same deck, but I'm just making this as an example. She has 5 might, so it can count for Volibear. Of course, I play her exhausted. So what I can do is that I can exhaust Volibear, so I can play 1 more rune, draw 1, but exhausted. That's written top rune exhausted, right? And this is basically a deck which allows you to have much more resources than your opponent, as you can draw many more runes per turn instead of 2. And then after a couple rounds, you can play very powerful and costly units and overwhelm your opponent. When you start a game, you have to make sure your deck contains your legend, that you put it here, 3 battlefields that you choose in order to start your game. Let's say I pick this one, my opponent has 3 battlefields and they pick this one. And then you have 1 champion that is in multiple copies in your deck, but you have to put one champion here. You have to consider that that champion is like a card that you have in your hand. The effect don't work until you play the card and you pay the amount of runes needed in order to play that card. Then both players draw 4 cards, like this. And I can mulligan up to 2 cards. So let's say I don't want this card, and I don't want this card too. When I mulligan, I take these 2 cards and I put at the bottom of the deck. You don't reshuffle it, and you draw 2 more cards. Then the player who starts put 2 runes, like this, draw 1 card, use any effect that's possible, and then play the cards. I can play, for instance, this unit. It costs 2, I exhausted it, and I exhaust my runes. Then it's my opponent's turn. It does whatever he wants. Since my opponent is second to start, they can draw 1 more rune, but it's just for the first turn. Then let's say the opponent does whatever thing they need to do, then it's my turn again. Since I have cards that are exhausted, and it's the beginning of my turn, I put them back like this. Every time you start a turn, you put all your exhausted cards into active cards. Then I draw 2 runes, and I draw 1 card. And now, since my unit is not exhausted, I can take a battlefield and score 1 point. Then after, so here it's a little bit complicated, you have 2 effects. Let's start with this effect. When I move, discard 1, they draw 1. So this is the effect of this card. So I have to pick 1 card. I discard, meaning that I put to trash, and I draw 1. Then this battlefield effect is basically the same. When you conquer here, so that's just what I did, discard 1, they draw 1. So I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna discard 1 and draw 1. And that's it. Okay, now let's talk about the battles. Let's say that the battlefields, both of them, are being controlled by my opponent. And of course, I don't want to let him control more because he's really close to win right now. So what I need to do is to attack these battlefields with my units here and try to overtake a little bit the momentum. It is my turn, fortunately, because of course this is a video I'm recording, so I can do whatever I want. And I need to attack both. And I have some cards in my hand. I have some spells, like this one. I have 1 more unit. And I have also another spell here. So I have a few spells. And you know what? Since it's a video, I'm going to add a few more runes as well, just to make sure I have enough resources to do whatever I want. I have Warwick here with 5 of might. And I have Vi and Caitlyn here with a total of 6 of might. And here I don't have a lot of units, I just have Jinx and 2 units with a total of 5 of might, so I have a total of 10 here, which is inferior to what's shown here. So I cannot just brute force and attack both battlefield and conquer all of them. I need to do something. So the first thing I can do here is to use this spell, which is return a unit at the battlefield to its owner's hand. So I'm going to use this spell. It costs 2, but I need to recycle 2 chaotic runes. So I'm going to exhaust 2 chaotic runes like this. And I need to recycle them, so I put them under my rune deck. Then I choose to give this back to my opponent's hand. And now this battlefield is free. So it's going to be very easy to conquer it. But now let's talk about this battlefield, because I need to conquer both of them. Let's remember that my opponent is at 7 points. If I leave my opponent with this, he will just win. So I need to remove both units and I'm going to attack it. So how I'm going to attack it? I'm going to make, let's say, Jinx and the Traveling Merchant. That makes a total of 7 might against a total of 6 might. So for sure, I will win this fight. Both units will die. But here, how goes the distribution of damage? I decide when I attack how to distribute the damage. Since I have more damage than my opponent, I can distribute the way I want. I will kill both units. But the defender decides how they distribute the damage to me, which is going to be 6 damage into that Jinx to kill my Jinx and leave that unit alive. So, kill my Jinx, they die, I take 1 point. Right. Okay. Now, what if they decide to distribute the damage to kill this, so 3 damage to kill this, and put my Jinx at 2 health by inflicting 3 damage? The thing is, at the end of each fight, like this one, all units that are still alive get back to full health. So putting my Jinx at 2 health doesn't really help, actually. So that's why it's much smarter to both direct the attack to Jinx to make sure she dies and I leave with the weaker unit. Another thing that's also important to know is that at the beginning of every turn, if there is any unit that is not full health, they will be back to full health. So you don't need to concern yourself about who's injured, who's not injured, how much health they have, because they are always almost full health. So let's put this back the way I said, like this. And then to finish my turn, I conquer this battlefield. I have to remember that this one has an effect, which is when you conquer, discard 1, draw 1. So I have to discard 1 card and draw a card. And that is the end of my turn. And that's it for the beginner's guide and basic rules. If you really want to dig deeper and know more about the game, I highly recommend you to join the official community Discord, where you can find more details about the rules, you can ask a lot of questions and join the community. See you in the next video.